I desired the gift of speaking in tongues for 4 years. And these were 4 agonizing years. So in these 4 years, I tried so many things to receive the gift of praying in tongues. And all these things that I tried, they were just out of frustration because I didn't know exactly what I needed to do to receive the gift of praying in tongues. The only thing that I was sure I needed to do was that I needed to desire the gift. But according to me, I had desired the gift, but for some reason, I could not just receive it. Even one time I remember I made a prayer to God. This was an entire day I dedicated it to just praying that I may receive the gift of praying in tongues. So what I did, I actually conducted a fast. So for this entire day, I never ate anything. I never drank anything. It was a dry fast. Reason, I wanted to speak in tongues. I wanted to receive the gift of praying in tongues, but it just didn't happen. And so that just piled up my frustrations, and it made me question like very many things. Why am I not receiving the gift of praying in tongues? What is so special about those people who like uh, like those people who pray in tongues? Because to me it just seemed like I had done everything that like I needed to do. If it is to desire, if it is to pray, if it is to fast, if it is to ask for it, I had done it, but I was not receiving the gift. And what I didn't know was that God knew what I was doing, and God was doing something behind the scenes which I was not even aware of. So I only ever came to learn of it after I had received the gift of praying in tongues. And actually, after learning of it, I appreciated why God like did it in the first place. So what happened was that in these 4 years, I tried very many things to receive the gift of praying in tongues. I went to a number of people asking them about how they received the gift of praying in tongues. Although it was even very difficult and challenging for me to find people who are praying in tongues because I was raised in a church that really never mentioned praying in tongues. And so when I moved to a different church, in this other church, people were mentioning praying in tongues, but no one was actually praying in tongues. And so I didn't really have much to go on. And so it frustrated me. It really, really frustrated me. And during my fourth year, my very last year of desiring the gift, God answered my prayer, but it was partially. So what happened was that there was a friend of mine whom we used to fellowship with. So we were in school. And so when we went home for the holiday and came back, what happened was that my friend was speaking in tongues. And that was the very first person who was very close to me, who was desiring to speak in tongues and who had actually received the gift of speaking in tongues. And so at least I could, it was convenient for me to ask him as many questions as I wanted and to ask him to show me how, like how exactly that gift, I should get it if I want it. And so he gave me many, many answers to the questions I had. And those answers helped me a little bit, but they really didn't give me exactly what I wanted because they were basically just the same things. He was just telling me I need to desire the gift. And then I was asking him about how he received his gift, and he said he just went to church and the man of God laid hands on him and he began praying in tongues. And so at that point, I like began believing that I really need a man of God to lay hands on me to speak in tongues. So I changed my prayer from asking God to give me the gift of praying in tongues to asking God to show me a place where I could go so that those people would pray for me to receive the gift of praying in tongues. So I made that prayer, and nothing really happened afterwards until after like about 5 months. So after 5 months, I had completed school. And what happened was that a friend of mine invited me to a night vigil. So their church was having a night vigil. And so I said, because he has been a friend of mine for a long time and I have known him and all that, let me attend this night vigil. So I went, so when I went into this night vigil, I learned that everyone there was speaking in tongues. And that was very interesting to me. It was very, very interesting. I never been to a place where people were speaking in tongues, like everyone was speaking in tongues. And you see, this is like it was a big church. We are talking of almost like 500 people, and all of them are speaking in tongues. The only few people whom I knew are not speaking in tongues were the people whom I had gone with, like my other friends I had gone with, who are also attending it for the first time. So it was only for us, the people who were attending the first time, that were not speaking in tongues. And so we had quite a tough night because people were speaking in tongues and praying a lot. And for us, we could not pray a lot because we were just praying in understanding. But that even made me desire the gift of praying in tongues even more. And that night, I remember I prayed to God and I like just say to God, please, 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 let me not leave this night vigil if I'm not speaking in tongues. I have desired this thing for 4 years and I just can't take it anymore. I just need to have this gift as soon as now. So during the night, of course, there was mention that there were people who would, okay, like the person who was leading was saying, some of you will just receive the gift of speaking in tongues as you pray or as others pray. And I hoped that I would be one of the people, but that didn't happen until the very end of the night vigil, when now they said, those who want to receive the gift of praying in tongues, come forward, we pray for you. So I went, and when I got there, of course, they were praying for us. We were a group of people, a considerable number of people. So they were praying for us one by one, one by one. Then, of course, that person got to me and he laid hands on me and began speaking in tongues. So when he laid hands on me and began speaking in tongues, I also began speaking in tongues to kind of just match what he was doing. And so on one side, I felt like I was doing it just to please him. But on the other side, I felt like, yeah, there is some heavenly presence around here and I can do this, so let me do it. So that was the first time I actually spoke in tongues. And then after that, I went back home and, of course, tried to speak in tongues again. I had so many doubts and I was very, very naive. The tongues I was speaking, I was doubting myself a lot, but I eventually spoke in tongues and managed to complete at least, like, I think it was about like 20 minutes of speaking in tongues. And then the subsequent days, I continued like trying to speak in tongues, and the tongues began flowing a little well. But then it didn't take long. A few months after I received that gift of praying in tongues, I realized that I had a certain hunger to pray in tongues that was just beyond what I had seen my friends uh, have. Like my friends, their hunger to pray in tongues was not as much as the one I was having. And so it kind of scared me a little bit because we would go to pray and they would, okay, we will start to pray all of us, but when they would ask people to stop praying, for me, I would feel still a burning desire to continue praying in tongues. And I didn't understand why that was happening. And to make matters even more interesting, I had just received the gift of praying in tongues a few months before, and some of my friends had been speaking in tongues for a number of years, but somehow I was praying in tongues more than they were doing. And so that is when the Lord revealed to me that the grace that He had given me to pray in tongues was superior to that of my friends, and it was for one main reason. That was because I had desired the gift for longer than my friends. And so I understood finally why God had made me wait for 4 years before I could receive the gift of praying in tongues. And it was a lesson that made so much sense to me. And I was so grateful that that had actually happened, because had I known that God was the one who was actually holding me back, probably I would have given up even desiring that gift of praying in tongues. But I thank God that He made me frustrated so that I will desire and hunger more for that gift, so that my hunger for that gift will grow and grow and grow. And eventually, when that gift had grown to a level where God felt it was enough, that is when now He finally led me to that night vigil where I finally received the gift of praying in tongues. So this is just advice for people who are desiring to pray in tongues. Or if you are there and the tongues you are praying, you feel like they have no impact. The thing is, desire that God may increase your tongues. Desire that God may baptize you with deeper tongues. And the reason why you need to desire is because the more you desire, the greater the hunger you get. And the greater the hunger you get, the more capacity you build within you. So eventually when God gives you the gift, it will be more powerful than if you just received it without actually like hungering for it and desiring it so much. So don't give up if your tongues are dry and if you feel like the tongues you are speaking are empty, or if you are there and you are desiring to pray in tongues and somehow you just can't get to a point where the tongues flow. The thing is, God is holding you back so that you desire it enough to the point that when he now finally gives it to you, it will satisfy you beyond your imaginations. Like for me to this day, my desire to like pray in tongues is it can't be satisfied. Sometimes I would pray, like on some days I pray for like almost 4 hours in tongues and 5 hours. And these are 4 or 5 hours of praying in tongues alone, not doing anything else, just praying in tongues alone. And some of them I do continuously. And you see, to some people it may look like this is another level that is higher than they would expect. And sure enough, yes, I know people who pray in tongues, but they can't do more than probably an hour. And you see, the difference is that because of how much I desired the gift before I actually received it. So the more you desire and hunger for the gift, the greater it will be eventually when you receive it. So that's it for today. God bless you.